All right. Top of the top. Happy MACM Tuesday. We here for another round of facilitator training. Today we're touching on our the second MACM Law. We're touching on our second MACM Law. And there's one thing I have forgot to mention when we're talking about these trainings. With these trainings, what you're hoping to get out of it. By the end, you will be able to understand the importance of knowing your material code. Like I said, you want to understand and know your work like it's the back of your hand. You know what I mean? You will be able to clearly define and know your role as a facilitator. You will also be able to clearly understand why code, climate, and culture are all important factors to effective facilitating. You will also be able um, to work as a unit to create respectful expectations. That's what we're going to touch on briefly today as well. You will also be able to look outside the box and observe the small things. You will also be able to make an agenda have a good flow. That's very important because most agendas, if it doesn't have a good flow, you'll be able to tell. You'll also be able to know where to position yourself in a classroom to co-facilitate the most effectively. And you will also know the importance of a co-facilitator. So let's go ahead and dive into the second law. Let's go ahead and dive into the second law. We're not going to spend too much time with the outline and on the outskirts because we know facilitating effectively it can be described as a fine art if done correct. It's like the Fred Hampton of facilitating if done effectively. You know what I mean? And there are many factors to effective co-facilitating that we will discuss and you will clearly understand. And these factors that I like to call them the MACM laws. All right. So again, let's go ahead and jump into our second law and recap. The first law was know your product. The first law is knowing your product. You don't want to go in there without knowing your product. All right. Now the second law is understanding one's place. Understanding your place as a facilitator in that room. What does that mean? What do I mean by understanding one's place when it comes to facilitating? I'm going to pose that question just one time real fast before we jump in. What do I mean by understanding one's place? All right. You see, a facilitator's job is to help the group reach the best possible outcome. All right, that's what the facilitator is. That's their task in the space that they're in. The facilitator, they get to decide when and for how long the group will talk about each agenda item on the agenda. You will get to decide who talks. All right, you also decide how the group will discuss each topic. Do you want to have a debate? Do you want to do a think, pair, share? Do you want the group to talk in small groups or one large group? Do you want to put it to a vote? All of this is important when it comes to understanding one's place because you are whipping this thing. It's your responsibility to make sure that you're driving this. You're driving the boat. You're driving this facilitation vehicle in the way that it's supposed to be driven. Nobody want to be in a car where the driver is a crash dummy. All right. So again, understanding one's place as a facilitator, you got to own that power. If you let the group discuss and decide how to proceed on processes, 9 times out of 10, you will lose control of the meeting. People generally, they do not like, to make decisions about how to make decisions. And that's the truth behind it all. They want you to lead the process so that they can get on with the more important stuff like making the decisions. All right, or being a part of this or being a part of the decision that's being made. All right. You see, so with that said, you can still ask for advice on how to proceed. That's very important when including the participants that's in the space in on the processes when it comes to decision. For example, you can say something like, are we ready to put this to a vote? If you need an extra help or if you need an extra 5-minute break, you can ask someone to help, decide on the next steps for that. Good facilitators, great facilitators, constantly you're scanning the room. They're reading a group just to ensure the team feels good with their processes when it comes to decisions. You want to be able to read facial. You want to be able to read facial expressions. You want to just be able to, if somebody is feeling fucked up about a certain situation, it's going to show on their face. It's going to show in their actions. And you want to be able to read that. You don't want to be able to read it and still swim over the shit like the shit don't exist. That's not a vibe. That's not how we move around here. We want to acknowledge these feelings and then put it back out there like, is everyone all right with this process? Is everybody all right with the choice that we're making before we move forward? It's very important. If somebody is not all right, please let them know. Speak your truth. Say why you're not all right with this. Say why we should move a different direction. It is your job to make sure that everyone in that room, of course, everybody will not be in the same accord. Everyone will not have, will agree on everything. But at the same time, we can all come to an agreement when it comes to everybody feeling respected. I'm gonna put it like that. Intimate. But ultimately, the decision on how to proceed is yours as the facilitator. All right. Because again, we're talking about understanding one's place. But despite all this talk of power, we're not dictators. You know what I mean? We don't run shit. A facilitator does not make decisions for the group. And usually facilitators, they don't even share their own opinions. Your questions are used to bring out the opinions and the thoughts of the group. You can make suggestions, but at the same time, you want to also make sure that you understand your place in this space. In other words, the facilitator does not respond directly to a meeting participant with a comment like, nah, fuck that, we ain't gonna run with that at all. Or just to put it more plain, I disagree with your proposal to go this way with this activity or to host a workshop next week. You know what I mean? If you have vested interest in the outcome, it's probably best that you're not in the role of a facilitator. Because and I'm gonna say it in terms of again, we're talking about understanding one's place. As the facilitator, you're responsible for making sure, again, like I said in the beginning, you're responsible for making sure that the group reach the best possible outcome. You are not responsible for including your feedback, your vested interest in that outcome. The vested interest should be coming from the group as a whole. When it comes to understanding one's place, I always like to put in the term staying within your envelope. You know what I mean? Stay within your envelope. And what I mean by that is, if you clearly understand what you're doing, your goal, where you're at, your role, it's easy to stay within your lane. It's easy to play ball within your court with your ball on your rim. You make the rules. You play it how you want to play it, but at the same time, we always keep in mind of the group as a whole. You know, the group is the one that's making that's making these decisions as a whole collectively. You know what I mean? You dig? So again, this is our second law. This is the second law to becoming an effective co-facilitator. And that law is understanding one's place, understanding your place in the room that you were in, knowing why your place is important, knowing why you in this space is important, knowing why you as the leader in this room is important. You don't want to go in there thinking you are a participant. You don't want to go in there playing the role of a participant. You want to make sure that you are you want to make sure that you are 100% confident in your role as a facilitator. All right. Understanding one's role. That's where we're going to end it right here. All right. If every MACM member was just like me, what would this world be? Peace.